Hello and welcome to our online meeting. As mentioned, or you may have heard, my name is Raymond Gonzalez, the County Manager at Adams County. Thank you for joining us this evening as part of the engagement process for the first phase of Advancing Adams project. I would like to start by acknowledging our county commissioners who have joined us in this meeting and who are really playing an instrumental role of championing this important effort to plan for the future of Adams County. I believe Commissioner Odoricio is on, and I also heard that Commissioners Baca and Pinter will also be joining. And so thank you, Commissioners, for your ongoing support of this important project. Advancing Adams is an update to our 3 long-range master planning documents that will guide Adams County toward the vision of becoming the most innovative and inclusive county in America for all families and businesses. I am grateful for your participation tonight and hope that you will continue to be engaged during this year as we plan for our shared future through the creation of the County Comprehensive Plan, Transportation Master Plan, and Parks and Open Space and Trails Master Plan that have not been updated since 2012. Your feedback today will help inform these efforts. I would now like to turn the meeting over to our consultant team who will lead tonight's presentation. Anna, I believe you will be taking over. And again, thank you for participating and providing your feedback.
Hi there. Thank you. And thank you all for joining this virtual meeting. Tonight, we're excited to share progress on these 3 plans and are eager for your initial thoughts. The 3 plans are in their beginning stages of development, and we will introduce their purpose, contents, and some initial analysis findings. You're really on the front end of this one. In this hour together, we're limited to giving a brief overview of about 10 minutes per plan with some polling questions for you. A focus on 5 corridors and reserving 15 minutes at the end for your questions. For this meeting, participants' microphones are muted, but we welcome you to please use the chat box in your Zoom meeting controls to enter questions or comments. Our moderators of county staff and our consultant team will respond to these questions at the end of the presentation. In addition, we have questions for you that will appear on your screen in each section of the presentation for your response. If you're having difficulty seeing these, you may try to disable pop-ups in your browser. And if you're having difficulty viewing any information on the screen, you'll find controls along the bottom to focus in for a closer look. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted online at www.advancingadams.org.
Anna, real quick, I did just notice that our chair, Commissioner Eva Henry, has also joined us, so she will be participating and listening in tonight's session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for noting that. So I'd like to introduce you the team represented on the call and the context for this project. Libby Tart, Chris Chauvin, and Byron Fanning are the county's project managers for each of the 3 plans. Tonight, you'll hear from Jessica Garrow, lead consultant for the Comprehensive Plan, Carly Seif from the Transportation and Mobility Plan, and I'll share the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan. If you enter questions in the chat, you'll likely receive a response from Hadley Peterson, our engagement lead, or others listed here. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to share with you a preview of some of the materials and themes you'll find in the first section of the plan, and an understanding of existing conditions and identifying opportunities. We want to hear your reaction to this information early in the process to direct the next phase in creating strategies and direct actions for the future. For more detail and to review the information we are sharing tonight on your own, we highly recommend visiting the project website, www.advancingadams.org, listed on the bottom of the screen. There you'll find maps, data, and importantly, a link to a survey. If you're calling in on your phone and not viewing the screen tonight, that's where you can respond to the questions we are posing on the screen. We request that you share this survey with others in the future as well. It includes the same questions we're asking at this meeting, plus additional questions we don't have enough time for in this hour. Advancing Adams is a process of crafting the comprehensive plan, creating the transportation master plan, and updating the Parks, Open Space, and Trails plan. This integrated process of undertaking 3 plans at once allows for a coordinated future. They all take a holistic view of the entire county for a long vision that will direct planning for the next 10 years and shape the county beyond that. These 3 plans are created to support county goals of safer, resilient, more equitable, and more prosperous county by creating a legacy planning effort for future generations. All 3 plans will be viewed through lenses of equity, sustainability, and livability. The Advancing Adams website provides these working definitions on the screen of equity, sustainability, and livability that will guide our plan creation. In this presentation, we'll have questions scattered throughout to hear from you. I want to take a moment first, though, to share how we have been listening and gathering input for the last few months and how this is just the start. The simplified timeline shows the types of outreach that have been conducted since the end of August as part of Phase 1. Technical stakeholder meetings, presentations to municipal partners, community organization conversations, focus group meetings, and a youth activity have all been part of the start to this dialogue. Also at the end of November, we launched a survey on the Advancing Adams website with a graphic display like you'd be available in person at an open house meeting and shares information about county conditions. Now we're at a checkpoint to gain feedback on initial concepts to direct the completion of Phase 1 that takes the form of existing conditions and opportunities document. You'll get a chance to review the draft document and opportunities at the end of this phase and let us know if this analysis and initial concepts are headed in the right direction. Phase 2 begins in March and we'll run through the end of 2021 to conclude the project. This is when the vision for the future and strategies will really take shape. From the virtual focus group meetings to the youth engagement to the survey, we've used a variety of methods to capture input from the broadness of Adams County residents. We'll be inviting you back to provide input in many forms in Phase 2 to shape the vision together. We are hopeful to employ more ways of hearing from our county residents as health considerations allow in the coming months. And now we'll launch into the 3 plans. Each of them has a draft vision statement and initial key themes identified to frame the different topics we anticipate the plans will address. So be ready for questions to appear on your screen, requesting your response to the content being shared in each section. And we'll start off with Jessica Garrow of Design Workshop sharing the comprehensive plan.
Great, thank you, Anna. We're really excited to be here tonight with you all. A comprehensive plan provides an overall guide for the county. It is the overarching planning document which looks to the future and is used by county staff and elected officials in their decision-making process. It is a vision document that embodies the hopes and aspirations for the people of Adams County and provides a framework for other planning efforts. Most communities in Colorado are required by state law to have a comprehensive plan. The Adams County Comprehensive Plan is an update to the last planning effort that was completed in 2012. A lot has changed since then, and it's a really good time to be imagining the future of Adams County. The draft vision statement that will be popping up on your screen shortly, there it is, describes what Adams County strives to be like in 20 years. So as we go through this presentation, imagine what Adams County looks like in 2040. This effort covers the whole county, and our next phase of the project will include recommendations and policies for how we coordinate with our municipal partners. Our draft vision statement focuses on a comprehensive plan that guides the county to be the most innovative and inclusive in America and is broadly implementable. The vision statement applies specifically to the unincorporated areas of the county or those that are not within a city or town boundary. We will review a number of topics today, but there are some key themes that the plan will address. Community and housing, the natural environment, the built environment and connections, economic development, and cultural heritage. So we will have our first Zoom question. As you think about the future of Adams County, what are the top 3 considerations that you think the county should use in their decision-making process? So this is multiple choice. You can choose up to 3 that you would like. And as a reminder, if you're having any difficulty with the questions through the Zoom platform, or you're on a phone and cannot see the questions on your screen, please be sure to visit our website, www.advancingadams.org. There you can answer all of the questions that we're covering tonight, as well as some additional ones that we don't quite have time for. And there are quite a few people on this call, so we're going to hold it open for a little bit to make sure everyone can choose your top 3. What should the county consider in their decision-making process? All right, so a lot of support for sustainability, looking at equity and inclusivity. Great. So one of the key aspects about where we're at in the comprehensive plan process today is understanding existing conditions. What are things like today in Adams County? These next few slides will outline some of that information. Based on data from the state demographer, there are currently about 528,000 people living in Adams County today. That is expected to increase by about 220,000 people by the year 2040. So a key consideration in the comprehensive plan is how should the county accommodate that population growth? We also have data about housing and businesses in Adams County. There are over 175,000 households in Adams County, and there are, on average, 3 people in each household. The median income of $75,000 is slightly lower than the state's average. We also know that most of the people working in Adams County are in white-collar jobs, and a little over a quarter are in blue-collar jobs. While 84% of Adams County residents have a high school degree or higher, only 25% have a bachelor's degree or higher, which represents a less educated population compared to the state, where 40% of the population has a bachelor's degree or higher. These next maps illustrate some of the services that are located in the county. From a transit perspective, the western portion of the county is served by the RTD network, though there are some gaps along the South Platte River corridor and east of I-76. Similarly, the western portion of the county is well served by general infrastructure, water, sewer, and internet, while the eastern portion of the county tends to not be located in metro districts that provide those services. Additionally, it is important to note that much of the county has prime agricultural soils, and there are over 900 farms that are operating in the county. So next, we have some more Zoom questions for you. Based on what you know and thinking about Adams County, what would you like to see more of from both a physical perspective and a non-physical perspective? So you should have 2 questions that are showing up in the Zoom platform right now. The first asks, what non-physical elements do you think the county should have more of? You can choose up to 3. And the second is asking what physical elements you think the county should have more of, and also choose up to 3 there. I should also note that if you have additional ideas, please include those in the chat. We are recording all of that, and that will become part of the information that we gather today. All right, so for non-physical elements, a lot of support for expanded transit service and looking at broadband and job growth. And then on the physical side, tremendous support, almost 80% of you wanting to see more open space parks and trails, followed by more walkable areas with shops and restaurants. Thanks. All right. We now want to talk a little bit about planning for the anticipated population growth in the county. We know that land use is a somewhat abstract concept for most people, and that is totally okay. We have a draft framework to accommodate growth in the future that is easy to understand: the 20-minute community and the transect. The 20-minute community is a planning concept where essential services, such as a grocery store, and amenities, such as public parks, are accessible within a 20-minute low-stress walk, bike ride, or transit ride. This idea represents an equitable distribution of services and amenities that create walkable and livable communities and support sustainability goals by reducing the dependence on single occupancy vehicles. The transect is a tool to identify the types of land uses, restaurants, offices, houses, schools, and parks that are most appropriate in different areas of the county and next to one another. For instance, we may not want residential uses in an area that was traditionally used for industry because of the potential health impacts on the community. While we are focused on the idea of a 20-minute community, particularly for the more urbanized western portion of the county and some of the smaller towns within the county, the transect can extend to all corners, providing a framework to preserve rural areas as well as concentrate growth where services are.
I think I lost my audio. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Nope.
You're back. I can hear you. Jessica,
Okay, great.
keep going.
The area outlined in purple on this screen includes the Urban Edge, Urban Activity Center, and Campus District. And that's where we see the 20-minute community being most applicable in Adams County. And now we're interested to hear what you think. So you'll have your next Zoom question here, asking, what do you think about the 20-minute community for the most populated portions of Adams County? And if you have any specific thoughts or ideas, please do put that in the chat. All right, so generally folks are agreeing with that concept, but maybe need more information as we move through the comp plan process. Right, our last section for the comprehensive plan, we want to focus on housing. So this map illustrates housing affordability by census tract. The median home value in Adams County is currently just over $340,000 and is expected to go rapidly over the next 5 years to over $380,000. The average rent across all rental housing types in Adams County is $1,150, which is just slightly higher than the state average of $1,136. The county's overall affordability index is 120, which is slightly higher than the state average of 115. In Adams County, the current housing stock consists primarily of single-family detached homes, which account for 62% of the housing units. And this is predominantly what is still being built. There are also a significant number of mobile homes in the county, which account for just over 6% of the housing stock. The housing stock is slightly older, with a median year built of 1986, which can likely be attributed to an older supply of single-family detached homes in the county. So as our final question for the comprehensive plan portion, as you think about the future of Adams County, what type of housing do you support? Please select all that apply. And if you don't see a housing type listed here, but think that it's important for Adams County's future, please list it in the chat. All right, so significant portions support continuation of single-family homes. Also strong support for multifamily units, both for sale and for rent. All right, thank you. All right, thanks for hanging with me on the comprehensive plan. Apologies for my audio going out there for a moment. As this process moves forward, we will be updating future land use map for the county using the inputs throughout the Advancing Adams process. And for now, I'll turn it over to Carly to review the Transportation Master Plan.
Great, thanks, Jessica. As stated, I'm Carly Seif with Fair & Pierce, and I'll be introducing the Transportation Master Plan, which we'll also refer to as the TMP. The Transportation Master Plan identifies a long-term vision for transportation in Adams County looking into the future. It identifies a roadmap of short-term investments in order to accomplish this goal. These investments include infrastructure, policies, and programs that will ensure an efficient and connected transportation network that accommodates the population and employment growth that Jessica just talked about. This plan will make recommendations that improve the experience for people walking, people biking, people taking transit, and people driving, as well as the movement of goods. We've developed a draft vision statement that describes what transportation in Adams County will look like in 2040. This vision prioritizes a multimodal transportation network that is comfortable for all ages and abilities. That is, people who cannot or choose not to drive have transportation options that are convenient, connected, and comfortable. This vision is supported by a number of key themes that serve as important pillars for the transportation planning process and outcomes. These include a focus on the extensive rural road network and ensuring that the county strategically invests in the maintenance and upgrade of these roadways. It also includes managing growth in employment and population in order to accommodate this transportation capacity as well as transportation options. We're prioritizing safety and then also being fiscally minded in investments that are cost effective and that best serve transportation users. So I'll go through each mode of how people travel within Adams County, starting with driving in Adams County. The roadway network is comprised of Adams County-owned roadways as well as CDOT-owned roadways that are both paved and unpaved. The roadway network provides a connected and efficient means of moving vehicles, including freight, to and through Adams County. Modifications to the posted speed limit, roadway classification, and number of travel lanes of a roadway are all important outcomes of this plan that will provide a balance of moving vehicles through an area while also providing access to destinations. So we've got our first question on the transportation side of things, and this relates to driving. I'd love to hear, what is your biggest challenge associated with driving in Adams County? You can choose one. Great. It looks like the majority of respondents say that there's too much traffic. This is great feedback as we move into phase 2 of this effort. So next we'll talk about biking in Adams County. The bicycle network consists of on and off-street bicycle facilities. These facilities are primarily in the western portion of the county, as you can see on the map in the slide. There are 31 miles of bike lanes, as well as shared use paths for recreation and transportation. The Transportation Master Plan is working closely with the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Plan in order to ensure that this network of bicycle facilities is connected and provides access to key destinations, including schools, parks, and transit stops and stations. Next, we'll look at walking in Adams County. The pedestrian network consists of sidewalks and crossings. There are 407 miles of sidewalks in the unincorporated parts of the county and 13 miles of missing sidewalks. This plan will help guide the process of upgrading sidewalks in the county that are too narrow for a wheelchair, which is 5.5 feet wide, as well as locations where there are sidewalk gaps. So we next have a question about walking and biking in the county. Identify your top 2 challenges associated with walking and biking in the county. And then we also have a second question on this slide that has to do with trail connectivity. Identify just one of your top connectivity needs when it comes to trails. Great, pretty even responses here with lack of bike lanes and trails, and a slight lead with lack of sidewalks up there too, as well as personal safety. And then on the trail connectivity side, it looks like access to community locations like schools, parks, and open space is really important, as well as separation from roadway and traffic. The last mode that we'll discuss is transit. Transit in Adams County consists of local and regional buses, commuter rail, Flex Ride, which is RTD's on-demand service, and human service providers. Transit investment in the county has been high in recent years with the addition of the B and G rail lines, as well as the exciting recent opening of the N line. These rail lines connect various parts of Adams County to downtown Denver, greatly improving access to jobs and other amenities. However, there's no fixed route service in the central or eastern portion of the county, as you can see in the map on the slide. The average weekday transit ridership for stops serving Adams County was approximately 53,400 riders in January of 2019, but just 10 stops account for approximately 1/3 of the county's ridership. So the question we have on transit is, what is your barrier to taking transit? If you're not a transit rider, what is it that is keeping you from taking transit? And if you ride transit currently, what would it take to ride transit even more frequently? Also, an even split on barriers to taking transit as well. Doesn't go where I want it to go is number one. Takes too long is right up there and hard to access stations. So that first last mile gap is a challenge. So all great feedback. Thanks for those responses. So last on the transportation side, as Commissioner Gonzalez stated, Adams County vision is to be the most innovative and inclusive county in America. And transportation is a really powerful and effective way to exemplify this innovation. Transportation is changing so quickly, and plans like this one help identify potential policies and infrastructure to leverage these emerging technologies so that they support the goals of the Advancing Adams process. Some examples of transportation innovations that we expect to see even more of by 2040 are shared mobility, bike share and transportation network companies, electric vehicles that support the sustainability goals of the county, autonomous vehicles, hubs around transit stations that make it easier to connect to commuter rail, and dynamic connected transportation systems called ITS. This is such an exciting time to be planning for transportation in Adams County, and we look forward to hearing more about your vision and the future of travel in the region. So don't forget to go online to learn more and take the survey. Now I'll hand it back to Anna to introduce the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Plan.
Great, excited for this section. This is a really good transition in the presentation to address the useful overlap between the Transportation Master Plan and the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan. You'll sometimes see abbreviated with the initials POST. The POST plan will give attention to off-street trails used primarily for recreation, and also examines connections and access to parks. Parks, open space, and trails in Adams County are a key component to livability because they increase the quality of life for residents and sustainability, because they are resilient and green assets for the county. The Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan update is an opportunity to examine how well that is provided countywide and take a holistic approach to direct investment and efforts. Coordination with the creation of the comprehensive plan linked parks to residential land uses, as well as growth management and conservation. And the transportation plan also supports this holistic approach. The POST plan created in 2012 provides a good foundation for this plan update. The draft plan statement on the screen describes what the parks, open space, and trail system will strive for over the next 20 years. This statement is similar to the 2012 plan vision statement that guided the county so well. Modifications include the addition of recognizing the importance of equitable access to parks for all residents, while also a broadening of recreational opportunities. Two things we'll discuss in more depth tonight. Some key themes we anticipate the plan will address are on the right of your screen. Tonight we'll be diving into natural resource protection, outdoor recreation spaces, regional coordination, and equitable park offerings in more depth. This plan will also include a number of focal points or geographic areas that provide a greater level of detailed strategies, such as the Clear Creek and the South Platte River corridors, Riverdale Regional Park and surroundings, existing Adams County parks and recreational opportunities, and 5 corridors. Adams County has 5 park properties we'll be taking a closer look at in this planning process. Also, there are 15 open space properties that allow public access, as well as many other conserved lands. 11 trail greenways and trailheads round out these Adams County offerings. We'll discuss open spaces and trails in more detail next, but first we'll take a look at the park system and how it's serving Adams County residents. There are a variety of parks and recreation districts within the county that provide even more facilities than seen here. The post plan will reflect on how municipalities and other agencies provide parks and open space as a system throughout the county and seek to strengthen that partnership. We use information about all of these parks throughout the county, but those managed by Adams County and their partners to examine how they serve people where they live, work, go to school, and seek to play. Overall, we've estimated there to be 54 acres of parks, open space, and trail corridors for every 1,000 residents in the county. One way to evaluate how much to add in the future is by determining how many acres of parks would be needed to keep up with the projected population growth. The county and all partners would need to cumulatively add 6,500 acres by year 2030 to maintain current levels of park offerings. Another way to plan for future parks is to look at their geographic distribution compared to the location of where people live. This helps us understand if park locations should be added to make walking to parks more reasonable for more people. The purple areas on this map indicate locations with a park or public open space within less than 10 to 15-minute walk. For this analysis, we learned that 31.6% of residential addresses, those little tiny orange dots that are on the map that you see, those are outside of the comfortable walking distance to a park or public open space. The larger orange circles on this map point to locations we would be examining more closely for gaps in park provision and how the county or its partners would seek to fill them. So the dark green properties on this map, as well as the previous few, are other parks and open spaces in other jurisdictions or provided by other entities, as we were accounting for access to all parks and open space within the county, not just what the county manages. To address equity in this plan, we will be examining economic and racial disparities in park access and how to make parks more welcoming to everyone. From analysis like the map shown on the screen, we found 2/3 of households with income below poverty level live within a park service area. The areas we need to focus on for the future is primarily in the southwest part of the county. So here's where there's a question for you that's going to pop up about how would you address current gaps in the local parks and open space system? And you can choose up to 3 responses from these options. Okay, should see that appear. Great. So I see that investing in park or natural experiences within a 10-minute walk in unincorporated areas ranked fairly highly here, but there's quite a few others that are up there in your interests, including partnering with community organizations to provide more inclusive outreach and recreation offerings. Thanks for your thought on this one. It's helpful. So on to recreation. The existing conditions report will also provide information about recreational interests in the county and the region. Adams County has some distinct recreational interests and offerings compared to other places in the nation, such as spending more on sports, recreation, and exercise equipment than the national average, and more on fishing and camping equipment. Top activities in the county, according to surveys and data, are walking or hiking, biking, and wildlife viewing. The top sports are soccer, volleyball, baseball or softball, and football. There are also many outdoor activities growing in popularity, and we'll be considering how our parks and open space support those interests. If you'd like to, please use a chat box to let us know about any outdoor recreation in the region that's been getting you outdoors during this past year. And with a high interest in recreation, walking, hiking, and biking, it is excellent that this region has been focused on trail creation, with 559 miles of recreation trails estimated to be located in the county. 40.7 miles of those are managed by county staff. This plan will be a source of proposing ideas for additional trail connections and regional networks. So here we have a question for you all about what recreation offerings would you like to see more of in the county? And you can choose up to 3 responses here. And if there are others that aren't on your list, feel free to enter those. I saw one earlier about community gardens, so feel free to enter those in the chat, but we really would appreciate your response to selecting your top 3 that are on this list. I am not surprised. Regional trails, people love those places to recreate. Okay, top on the list, but also some great selection here about opportunities for boating, paddling, tubing, fishing, as well as amphitheaters. Okay. The strong support from voters over the years for Adams County's open space sales tax points to the value placed on the system. Since the tax started in 1999, over 538 projects have been funded all throughout the county. Over $212 million in projects have been funded by the open space tax since its inception. This plan creation is an opportunity to direct how future investments from this funding source are made. The tax allows for contributions to conservation and enhancements for things like water quality, wetlands, rivers and streams, wildlife habitats, farmland, wide open spaces, as well as parks, trails, and recreation facilities. We'll be updating the 2012 Open Space Opportunities Map assessments to identify priority areas for these conservation efforts, and we'll be looking for your feedback on that. But for now, we've got a pop-up question that's going to appear here about where should the county focus its efforts in regards to parks and open space moving forward. And with this question, you'll be able to choose 2 options.
Anna, this is Jill. It was suggested to maybe give a heads up before we close the poll.
Okay. All right, many options on this one. Top choices here, but we're really looking for the future of where to focus attention. I think we'll get ready to close the polling on this one. Okay, preserving open space for wildlife habitat and connectivity as well as preserving scenic views and features are some of our top ones here, as well as there's one at the bottom on the list of, let's see here, providing outdoor and nature environmental education. Thank you. Okay, now I'll move on to a section about the 5 corridors. This is our last section tonight, and I'll just be giving a quick preview regarding a focus on 5 corridors that have been identified as critical to the future of the county. County commissioners directed the selection of these 5 corridors based on the criteria shared on the left on your screen. County commissioners wanted to explore these corridors in the context of the unincorporated county, as they serve as important gateways from unincorporated areas to jurisdictions. I'll briefly share information about the 5 corridors, as each of the 3 plans have been examining the existing conditions and potential opportunities along them. You'll see how these corridors relate to each other and the 3 plans on the following slides. But we encourage you to visit the interactive map on Advancing Adams' website to see each corridor in more detail. The map will guide you through what they are like today and their possibilities for the future. First up is Federal Boulevard. We know this corridor is dominated by cars and has the opportunity to expand pedestrian and bicycle connections through adding infrastructure and connecting to the regional trail system by connecting to Clear Creek Regional Trail. The corridor is also dominated by heavy industrial land uses that have significant environmental impacts. Going forward, we see the opportunity to expand on the diverse businesses along this corridor and expand access to parks and open space for residents and visitors in order to create a more cohesive and comfortable corridor. Pecos Street has a lack of cohesive land use, which also is being a significant freight corridor. However, Pecos Station is hard to get to, and the corridor needs to do a better job of connecting its transit amenities, parks, and employment centers. We've noticed that there are 3 clear districts along Washington Street, which is wider than is needed to be for current traffic volumes. These districts are the Thornton area, Welby, and the industrial areas as you approach the city of Denver. All 3 districts have a number of trails along the corridor that can be better connected together. 104th Avenue is one of the 2 east to west connectors we're giving focus, as it's in an important connection to DIA. While much of the corridor is in municipalities, the unincorporated areas are mostly suburban residential and open space, despite the road carrying a high volume of traffic. This disconnect does not support bicyclists, transit riders, or pedestrians. All 3 of those modes of travel need better infrastructure along the corridor, and neighborhoods along the corridor could be better connected to the South Platte Regional Trail. 120th Avenue is the other east to west corridor we are focusing on, as it has the opportunity to be a true gateway to Adams County. However, it's currently lacking in a clear identity when it comes to land use consistency and roadway treatment. There's also the opportunity for Riverdale Regional Park to be further enhanced in order to contribute to the identity and gateway nature of the corridor. Again, this is just an overview of the corridor, so please check out advancingadams.org to learn more and to also take the online survey where you can provide your feedback on these corridors. And that concludes our review of the elements you can expect in these 3 plans. Please visit that website, www.advancingadams.org. It's listed on the bottom of the screen there for more information and to take or share the survey that will be available for the next 2 weeks until February 23rd. Also, this website will provide updates about the plan progress for you to follow along and learn about more opportunities for input. If you would like to have a conversation about the plans, please email advancingadams.org to set up something with one of the county managers. And now we have 15 minutes remaining to respond to questions from you all. So please use your chat box to submit your questions to the panelists, and we'll answer those. There's also a Q&A thing if you know where that's located you could use, but we'll begin by reviewing the questions you've submitted previously on the chat and begin responding to those. So thank you so very much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it.
Hey, okay, so I'm monitoring the chat as questions come in, but we already have several. So the first one, as it relates to the Parks and Open Space Plan, I'm going to direct to Byron. Byron, can you talk a little bit about how special districts figure into this plan and how we can do more to promote partnerships, especially with the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District?
Thank you, Hadley, and hello, everyone. Yes, one of the aspects of this plan is to focus on partnerships within the community, including partnerships with organizations within the community, such as the Highland Hills Special District. So we plan to continue to work with Highland Hills to promote their park system and also their recreation offerings as we move forward.
Thanks, Byron. Also directed towards the Parks and Open Space Plan is how is the Parks and Open Space Department currently making trails more accessible for those of different abilities?
I'll go ahead and take that one as well, Hadley. Thank you. The commissioners have in 2021 granted us money in the budget for concrete repairs along our trail system. We continue to do that. Some of the biggest issues we find with our trail system is where the concrete is broken up or where a trail does not connect to an accessible area like a parking lot. We're working to make those connections as much as we can. And as we work through our system and see issues, we're addressing them as quickly as we can.
Thanks, Byron. Okay, Anna, we had a couple questions along the same vein here. How are these plans, especially the Parks and Open Space Plan, addressing homelessness, especially along trails, greenways, and the waterways like Clear Creek? What ideas are being addressed to take into account the homeless citizens of the county?
Oh, wonderful question. I'm glad that one was raised. It is something that we identified early on needed to be addressed in these plans and started a review of literature about what are best practices, how are communities throughout the country addressing this challenge that so many face of how to best manage these properties in light of that idea of how to make them welcoming for all, places that benefit the county holistically, and really have a response that we're directing policies for the future that are appropriate for the goals of the county. So with that, we don't have strategies suggested at this time. We're at the initial research stages of this and have looked at what the county is doing today, as well as what those opportunities are for the future. But I really encourage you to continue to be part of this conversation and provide some thoughts and understandings of what that can look like and what you'd like to see in this plan. But yes, the idea is that all three plans, the comprehensive plan regarding housing, likely need to be addressing this topic in a good amount of detail. And Byron, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
No, Anna, I think you covered it. One thing I will add, though, is that the commissioners did approve budget dollars to work on cleaning up some of the areas that have been left behind, as well as working on the natural habitat within our riparian corridors, especially along Clear Creek and the South Platte.
The next question I'm going to direct towards Jessica. It's about the 20-minute community concept. One, if you could introduce any ideas where that's been done successfully, and then also what kind of community level assets are integrated into that. Does that include schools, hospitals, community gardens? And just a little bit more about that, or where people can learn more about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the 20-minute city or the 20-minute community, as we're using it for Adams County, is really one of the emerging ideas in the planning field of the last maybe 2 to 3 years. Regionally, the city of Boulder has updated some of their planning documents and is working through a framework to implement a 20-minute city there. It's also being used in places across the country and the world. You may have heard about it in Paris. Detroit is looking at it as well as many other cities in the country. The really important piece of it and why we are introducing it as part of the comprehensive plan framework has to do with the equitable access to services. So this is everything from grocery stores to schools, childcare, job centers, parks, community gardens. And as we finish up the existing conditions report and move into phase 2, we're creating mapping that outlines how the 20-minute community framework is currently implemented in Adams County and where there might be gaps to really ensure that all portions of that more urbanized portion of the county have access to these critical services.
Thank you, Jessica. The next question I'm going to direct towards Kristen, but feel free to chime in, Chris, if you would like. It's about Federal Boulevard. If you could talk briefly about the planning going on around Federal Boulevard right now and what opportunities there are to introduce additional tree planting, greenery, and other pedestrian amenities along Federal Boulevard.
Thanks, Hadley. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Sullivan. I'm the Director of Public Works. We have done quite a bit of planning along Federal Boulevard over the years, and many of our community members have been actively involved and great partners in helping envision a new future for Federal. I just want to acknowledge that first. Through our Making Connections plan, as well as the Federal Boulevard Framework Plan, we continue to build upon those concepts and ideas and try to bring them more into actionable items. So we are currently in a partnership with Federal Heights and the City of Westminster and doing a very detailed corridor study of the Federal Boulevard corridor all the way from the Denver border up to 120th. And through that project, we are looking at some specific safety enhancements, some aesthetic enhancements, and trying to improve the public sphere. So all the space in between the private property lines on both sides of the street, and working in partnership with CDOT because it is a state highway under the control of CDOT. We did implement some medians several years ago that have space for plantings, and there are many more opportunities to do more to bring greenery to the corridor. It is a major deficit. It is very much paved from edge to edge, and a lot of the properties are auto oriented with a lot of paving too. So that's absolutely part of it. Chris can probably add on for specific opportunities to bring more ideas and input through that project, the Federal Multimodal Corridor Study. So I'll pass to Chris if he has additional details to add about how to get more involved, if this is a special interest to anyone here on the call.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate that. As Kristen said, we are looking at the corridor with our two partners to the north, basically from 52nd to 120th. The website for the project is actually being housed by the City of Westminster, so you can go to their website and type in Federal Boulevard Multimodal Transportation Study, and you can find out where we are in that process. We've gone through the existing conditions and the needs assessment already, and we're getting ready to start moving into recommendations. So this is an excellent time to solicit that type of feedback, and regardless of what it is. If it's less lanes, more sidewalks, better signals, whatever it is, trees, etc. So this is a perfect opportunity. And I want to emphasize what Kristen said about it being a CDOT corridor. I mean, that's one of the challenges that we have as local governments, is that it's a CDOT road. So we have to make sure that we work in tandem with them. But CDOT has been a great partner with us almost throughout the entire process, as has RTD with the 31 route that runs up and down Federal. So again, go to the Westminster City's website and you can access the project data from there, or you can contact me individually. My email is available on that site.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, moving along through the questions. We have several, and I'm not sure we'll get to all of them in this, but we can post answers to some of the ones we don't get online. Jill, this one I think is best directed towards you. And if Jessica or anyone wants to chime in, how is the new Amazon warehouse being included in the 5 corridor discussion as far as an employment center? Jessica, you might have some input on that as well.
Well, I can go first. This is Jill Jennings-Golick, and I'm the Director for Community and Economic Development for Adams County. Again, thank you all for being here tonight. So we know that Pecos and Washington serve a number of important needs for the community, employment being one of those, and certainly the Amazon warehouse that is starting to get developed is one of those factors. So that's certainly something we're looking at with our corridors, is how do they serve adjacent residents? How do they serve the employment that's there and allow people to get access to jobs? And what is the land use that happens there as well? So those are all factors we're taking into consideration.
Thank you, Jill. And then Libby, we got this question earlier, but can you just elaborate a little bit on how the comprehensive plan and the county consider water service and availability in terms of future growth?
We actually, when a development application comes on board for any form of development, we have a 300-year water supply plan that needs to be acknowledged by the applicants. And it's reviewed by the Division of Water Resources at the state. And then we receive a letter of confirmation or a letter indicating that the water supply plan is inadequate or adequate. And the applicant needs to resolve the inadequacies if that's the case.
Thanks. Byron, this question is about Highland Hills Park and Rec District and the Welby area. Is there any discussion with the Highland Hills Park and Rec District to expand to include the Southwest unincorporated Adams County communities? And what does that look like?
Thanks, Hadley. Yes, I think we're certainly open to it. We have not had discussion with Highland Hills specifically, at least from our department's perspective about that. Jill or Kristen may be able to chime in with further information, but to my knowledge at this point, we have not had those conversations, but would certainly be open to them.
We have a couple more questions, but we have to go and start the Spanish meeting. Like I said, I think there's two that did not get addressed, but we can provide those answers on the county website. I will pass it back to Anna for closing remarks.
Sure, and if anyone would like to respond to those questions in a chat box, you could do that as well, the remaining ones as we conclude here. I just wanted to conclude by saying thank you all for joining us tonight. This is just the beginning. And the other aspect is that online survey, that if you have other questions that come to mind, you want to respond to it there, please feel free to follow that one up as well. We're going to be taking input from this meeting tonight, as well as the Spanish session that's happening right after this, and the online survey that will be up for 2 weeks to collect survey results. All of those feed into this plan and are part of that overall picture of engagement, of hearing from residents that I presented early on. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And with that, conclude our presentation.